All right. Hi, my name is Michelle Benjamin. I graduated in the class of 2020.
Hi, my name is Becca Brown, but it does say Rebecca on the screen. And I also graduated in the class of 2020. And we were selected because we were grad school BFFs. Woo! So let's get started with our fun conversation. So my first question to you, Michelle, is do you miss me?
Of course, I miss you. I miss you guys. I miss everyone from our class so much. Um, it's definitely weird that like we spent so much time together, like 2 years, just like the 24 of us all together all the time. And I was like, I don't see them. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, the wild. Also, we were part of the wild class of 24 that started as 24 and then ended as 24. Like that in itself is crazy. Like we did it, and we graduated in a pandemic. So we're.
I know our class it was full of excitement, beginning to end. Excitement, bad word maybe, but
I
unconventional.
would say just like unprecedented events, one after another, just unprecedented times happened during our class. So
Yeah.
I think either we'll live in like probably infamy. Like it's not a good thing, but like infamy for sure. Another one. So just to do a little catch up for everyone, 5 people watching. Where do you live and work now?
I now live in Middle Tennessee. I don't know. Do I dox myself? Do I say the town? I live in Murfreesboro. It's fine. I don't care. Come find me. Come hang out.
I'll hang out. I'll come find you.
I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I work at a high school. I work at Shelbyville Central at high school. But I work through a PT clinic, so it's like a third party thing. So I work technically for Benchmark Physical Therapy, but at Shelbyville Central High School.
Very
How about you? Where'd you work now?
I work at according to Newsweek, the number 5 ranked best research hospital in the United States, the UCSF.
It's corny. I love it. I love it.
I work at UCSF in the overall Department of Orthopedic Surgery, but specifically with orthotics and prosthetics right here, or as you'll hear me say probably during this time, O&P, because it's just way easier to say. UCSF generally did what's called play safe, and they still do that where they hire athletic trainers and then contract them out to high schools in the Bay Area. Like that was the traditional way that they would hire athletic trainers. But then they started hiring them in the O&P department because we had the sufficient background to understand anatomy and understand the type of surgeries that people are having and what type of braces, because we do have a small sliver of like an idea of like how to put a cam boot on, how to fit someone for crutches, like the basic kind of things. And my boss is very much of the idea that you can teach an athletic trainer how to do anything and everything. So
accurate.
You should hire them, which is great because so what we're considered, we go by athletic trainers, but we on the UCSF, like it pops up as fitter. So we're a fitter. And then I work with orthotists and prosthetists, and those are the ones that do the casting and build custom prosthetics and orthotics for people. And that's a whole separate degree that they went to school a long time to get, and that's insane. But I know how to do like basic modifications on braces. Like I'm learning how to sew, so I can sew Velcro onto braces.
You know how to sew?
I taught myself how to sew on an industrial sewing machine this week, so it's crazy.
Okay. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and like using grinders and things like that to make small modifications on off-the-shelf braces. So I pretty much fit and modify off-the-shelf braces, but as soon as somebody needs something that's custom, I call in one of our orthotists to come in. Or if it's someone that's just lost a limb, our prosthetists handle that one all the way through. But it's weird. I'm learning so many things that we never knew about.
It sounds really interesting.
It's really interesting. It's wild. You see so many. It's wild. So my next question is, how have you grown or changed since graduating?
That's broad. As a person, as an athletic trainer?
We'll do one personal growth and one athletic trainer growth.
I'm so bad on the spot. You know this about me. We should have pre-vetted these.
Okay, but I mean, like, okay, personal growth, I can already tell you how you've grown personally. Like you
I
decided to
hear it.
move across the country. Like that took some balls. Like I didn't have that. I was like, I could probably stay on the West Coast, but I'm not leaving the West Coast. So I mean, I think that's a huge growth in like just even like you're an independent person, but
Stop it.
you're an independent person, but your independence just shot up like by a million. Like just
You're
deciding
right,
like
and
I'm gonna
that's what I was gonna say was that like I definitely had to like it forced me to be very independent, especially doing it like in a pandemic. It like forced me to be more independent or more like adultish, had figuring out my life and trying to move 2,000 miles away. Um, so yeah, that I would suppose that'd be my answer for personal. And then as an athletic trainer, um, I've my program didn't have like anything anything. I mean, like anything, Becca. So I've had to very much advocate for myself,
yeah.
which is like kind of new because as a student, we don't have to do that. We like our ATs advocate for our profession, and we're there and we're just trying not to kill anyone, um, and like do the right thing and remember the right tests. So now I have to like advocate and be like, no, I want this because of this. Will someone give me money for this? Can I have this? Can I have this room? Can I? And so it's been something new for me and it makes me really anxious because I don't authority figures scare me. I know I'm a grown woman, but like authority figures freak me out. So having to go to like my principal
Authority
and my
figures
superintendent
and
scares me.
confrontation. Authority figures and confrontation are the two things that nope, that's
Miss me with that. Mm-mm. I do not like it. It scares me. It makes me
you,
nervous.
you and I
Uh,
both, as soon as any authority figure like got serious, we're like, oh,
oh God. Oh yeah. Just
sorry,
I should use the
I
word
did
human
not
being.
say anything. I'm gonna play, you know, bitch in the corner. I'm good.
Exactly. So it definitely has forced me to be like better with that and better with speaking to people who make me nervous like that. Like that's another thing. Remember when we always would talk about like going to conferences
Yeah,
as students and it's like, oh, find your buddy who's like good about like talking with other people. I would find you or Caleb or like Fidel, like you guys are really good at talking to like people who make me nervous essentially. And so I think it's kind of forced me to do that because I have to. Like if I want something, which not even want, need at this point, if I need something, I have to go talk to my principal or my AD or like my superintendent now. I've spoken to them. That scares me.
crazy, right? It's
What would yours
insane.
be?
It's insane. Yeah, no, it's I definitely think for me, like I would say it's kind of similar. Like my personal growth is definitely just being comfortable not knowing, just being in the unknown because this year has been and this past year and then even into early 2021 has been just a question mark and I'm a planner and that's not helpful. That's not helpful for me at all. I first started like my first job as a certified was it was a job, it wasn't a career. um and that hurt, that was hard because I'm like I can't plan long term with anything right now, like this is not good. And so that was a huge personal growth for me to just be okay not knowing and just having to roll with that. And a professional growth, I think it's similar to yours. Like I'm okay talking to people, but now working at a hospital and specifically a really renowned research hospital where people specifically come from all over the country to see these surgeons and to see these doctors. And I'm on email threads with these doctors and these surgeons saying, actually, I don't think that that brace is the right brace for that patient. Like, is crazy. I'm like, you're telling me that I have to tell this surgeon that I think they picked the wrong brace? I'm like, this surgeon is gonna look at me and be like, how old is she? And she's telling me that I'm picking the wrong brace. But it's crazy because I've had to do that already a couple of times, just going, I don't think that's the right choice for this patient. And here's the reason. And when I've already figured out, like, if you approach it in a way to just say, can you explain to me what your thought process was to pick that brace so I can understand where you're coming from? Because maybe I can explain this better, is way helpful. Because then if you have a question with the intention to understand, then they come from oh yeah, sure, whatever. You're
Mm.
not questioning them, you're just asking what was their thought process. But it is really intimidating, like even to talk to the director of my own department, like he just calls my work phone, which is
Mm.
also a weird thing that I have now, which is a work phone separate from my own cell phone, and that's wild. And that's a crazy thing that I never thought would be a thing, but
I'm jealous. I wish I had a work phone. They just have my cell phone number, and I know that's not. I know someone's gonna watch this and be like, Michelle, we taught you about like work life balance, but like I don't have any other option. I have to give these parents my cell phone number because I don't
yeah,
have another phone. I haven't heard anything else. Getting another phone is the least of my concerns.
yeah. You're like, I just want tape.
Yeah, can I just have a reasonable budget and like a bigger room that could fit more than one table? We're working on it. We're working on it. It's getting there. But anyway, that's the least of my concerns. So I just get a call and I'm like, is this a parent? Is this a coach? I don't know who this is at this point. I just
I
say
know.
hi, hello.
I get really comfortable answering a work phone. I'm like, hi, this is Becca from Orthotics and Prosthetics. Like, what? Oh, your patient soiled their brace that I gave them. Uh, do we have replacement pads for it? No. Um, you can hand clean it, or I can bring up a brand new one. Oh, I'm bringing up a brand new one. Okay, just that's it. Like that, those type of calls are the most often ones that I feel. Just being comfortable, just like being able to answer questions. And the crazy thing that I learned about a hospital is I don't know and let me check is a perfectly acceptable answer for a lot of things, which is crazy because when you think about, I don't know, as an AT, I never thought that like going, I was like, you go to the hospital and they do everything, like they know everything. And then, but it's like comforting in a way to know that like
Not everyone knows
you don't
everything.
have to know everything.
Mm.
You can always say, let me check. And there's somebody either that works in your department or someone else that knows the answer. And that's okay. And so that's nice. That's really nice for at least the initial stuff. And then I'm sure the longer I spend there, like I'll have those answers. But initially it's nice to just be like, I don't know, but let me double check and everybody's okay with that answer.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is. It's like it's a freeing moment in any
Oh yeah.
person's life to realize like I don't gotta know it all.
I
I
don't have to. I
and
don't need to know the answer to.
I never will. Like it's too much.
What's your
Level I don't
favorite
know.
part about your job?
Um, Twofold answer. One part, I the kids are great. They're really good kids, and that feel like that makes my job easier because fun fact, airing my dirty laundry out. One of my last rotations, my last full rotation was at a high school, and the athletic trainer on my review said needs needs patient with the kids because it's true. Like I lack a level of patience that it takes to work at a high school. And so it's great that I love the kids. They're good. They're great kids, and they make that easier on me. They make it so I'm a better athletic trainer because they're just genuinely good kids. I also love my coaches. I feel like a lot of the time when people who go into the traditional field talk about like nightmare first jobs, it's like the coaches is a problem and they make their like lives way harder. Every single one of my coaches is just like a
That's
great person and has never like undermined me or like tried to get me to change my opinion on. They're just all like, okay, whatever Michelle says goes, and I'm like, thank you.
That is so great. That is so great when they're just thankful that you're there. So they're like, okay. They just
Yeah,
don't question it. They just go with it. That's like the ideal scenario.
I cannot complain. Everyone there is really good people. What about you? What's yours?
I so I was hesitant to like, leave traditional athletic training to
Of
go
course.
into a very non-traditional like hospital setting because I had no idea fully what I was getting myself into. Like granted my boss did a really good job of like just preparing me about what my day-to-day would look like. So I had some idea. Um, but my favorite part is they've done an excellent job with their hiring. They full on hire people. Yes, everybody is qualified to work there, but they also hire people, as my coworker says, based on vibes. Like they definitely hire people with excellent personalities and that are fun and funny and know what they're doing but have a care for it and it makes it fun and it makes it interesting. It was funny, my coworker was telling me like who they were interviewing while they were interviewing me and whatever, and she's like, yeah, they would talk about the other candidates, and she's like, yeah, they had people that had like actual experience in this, like fitting people for orthotics.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? She's like, but then they would start to talk about you and they're like, she's funny, she's really smart, she has a great personality, she just radiates this like sunshine energy is like the things that they just said. And so they would talk, and she's like, they talked about you for a long time. So they 100% hired you based on vibes is what she said. And I was like, well, thank God that was what they hired me on. But I think my favorite part of my job, honestly, is my coworkers. And even though that at Mount Zion where I am, I'm technically by myself, like I'm the only person there. Parnassus, the main hospital, is 15 minutes away, and I could take a shuttle over there, or they could shuttle to me if they had to. And also, they're a phone call, FaceTime, or text away. So if I have a question, I can FaceTime my coworker Annie and be like, "What is this?" And she'll answer and she'll let me know. And so even though I'm technically by myself, it's a very team center. So I've said it brings khaki energy to like a scrub world. Like it gives me vibes of being in an athletic training room at a college or high school or something, but I'm just in scrubs and we're all.
Yeah, that's really good. That's another point that I hadn't thought about that like probably really helps with like transition to practice is having like a good support system around you.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's like, it's really hard to find that. And if you're one of the lucky ones that gets it, it's worth its weight in gold.
I feel like that support system is something that like, not that I don't have, like I do, like I called you or I like talked to you about that one patient, and I called Dicker one time, and I talked to Heather about patients, and I talked to Kevin about patients. But it's definitely like, it's different. It's a high school. I'm by myself. But like some kind of nice little like midway of like having a support system is that since I work through a PT clinic, I go in there once a month and like have a meeting with my boss, a PT, or and I've called him before and been like, I don't know if I did this right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm doing my darndest. I'm not gonna hurt anyone, but I don't know if I did this right. And I remember one time distinctly being like, because he's not that old, he's in his late 20s, so he recently transitioned to practice for a PT.
Right.
And I remember one time being like, do you ever just feel like you don't know what you're doing? And he was like, that's half the job, Michelle. And I was like, okay, cool, thank you. I just need reassurance that when I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, it's not like I'm a bad practitioner. It's just that I'm learning.
We're all learning. And is there anything that you have experienced as a certified that is vastly different from what we were taught or what you experienced in school? I'm also asking you this question because I have an answer to this question, but
I figured as much. That was probably for all of them, but
yeah.
Like crazy different? No, not really.
Or anything
obviously like
surprising. I will say CVU did a really good job preparing us for like a plethora of scenarios.
Yeah, I think that you're never gonna teach for literally anything that could happen.
I think my experience is just an exceptionally unique experience, so I think maybe that's why I have an answer for that. But just like weird cases or something that you've never seen before, or like had no idea, or just like, oh, I didn't know that I had to fill out this type of form in order to order something, like anything like that.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. Like I had that one really weird case where like she had lost all feeling and sensation in her entire arm instantly, and I was just like, I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and it just was instantly gone and was gone for like 2 weeks and then came back. Cool. I think it's like a case of teenagers being genetic freaks and just bouncing back like crazy. That girl who did that, she broke her radial head, sprained and strained her elbow. She's playing again. She's playing softball. That was like not that long ago. Anyways, it was crazy. It was crazy to me.
That's insane. Yeah. So like that definitely is something that we weren't like, look out for spontaneous numbness that then
in her entire arm
subsides and then
one branch
and then goes away.
All the nerves. It's fine, right? That's fine. That's chill.
All the nerves are shot. It's fine. I would say for me, one thing that's vastly different than what I experienced in school. I'm thankful that we had interprofessional education. Now, this is all something that we would complain about so much.
Not me. I loved it.
Don't lie. We would all complain so much just because it was like an extra thing that we had to come in on a weekend and do, or stay late and do. Like that's the real reason why we complained. It's just like it was an extra thing and we were tired. But my experience, because I do so much
Mm,
interprofessional communication. It's ridiculous. What comes to mind is for this one particular patient, I was standing in the hallway with and it was still when I was in my training period, but I was with my coworker. So it was her, a PT, a nurse, and an OT, and a resident that was the resident of the surgeon that did the surgery. And we were all standing outside this patient's room, and we were all just going back and forth on like, well, what do you think? What do we think about this brace? Well, I don't think for their PT that will be very helpful. Okay, well, what do you think about this? Well, they have skin precautions, so you can't put that type of brace on them. It'll just rub too much. Okay, well, what can we do to modify this so that they can get up to go use the commode instead of just having a catheter? Like, these are the things we're all just sitting there talking back and forth on like what we need to do, what's going on, and all this kind of stuff. And that happens a lot. And the thing, and I think I'm going to give the people from the other professions a benefit of the doubt from when we were students and those things. I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt. There were some that were very willing to talk to other professions and learn about their professions, and then there were a lot that weren't, and that were like, well, this is what I'm doing and I'm not going to listen to you and what you're talking about because I don't want to be here. Or I don't know if it was like I don't want to be here. I don't know if it was like an overlying, like, I don't really respect you kind of a thing or whatever. I think a complete opposite of what I've experienced at the hospital. Like, I was intimidated to talk to like even a nurse. But they look at me, they're like, well, I have no idea. So can you tell me? And no, I trust you on this, so I'm going to ask you. And same with the PTs, I trust you on this, so I'm going to ask you. And it's a lot of this back and forth. And I work closely a lot with like PTs and OTs, because to fit some of these braces, we need to get these patients out of bed, and we need to do
mm,
it safely. And I know how to get a patient up off a field safely. I don't know how to get someone that just had spinal surgery, who's in their old age safely out of
mm,
bed, who has all these cords attached to them, drains from their surgery attached to them, like, and I got to put a back brace on them. Like, I don't know how to do that safely. So it's a real team effort, and I am very pleased with so far the kindness and the trust that other
yeah,
professions have put into what I do. And that's nice. And it was surprising because that was not necessarily always the case when we would do IT.
yeah. I get you. I think it's. I mean, this is gonna sound like painfully obvious, pointing out the obvious. But like, I think it's just like with a practice thing. You know what I mean? Like, the more you're around someone else in other professions, someone who knows other stuff, the better you are able to like
Yeah,
communicate and like work together. So maybe we came off as a-holes to them, and they came off as
exactly.
a-holes to us because it's
Exactly.
like the second time we've ever tried to talk to a nurse.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly,
so
exactly. So like because of that, I also gave those IPEs like a lot of benefit of the doubt when we would go to them. Like, yeah, I would be annoyed initially and I would complain about it, be like, they were so rude. And like initially, and then I would like go home and think about it. I'm like, well, if I was insecure about what I was saying, they're probably insecure about what they're saying too. And maybe their response was to act like, well, I know what I'm doing or something. So
yeah,
that was the part where I'm like, okay, I give it a lot of benefit of doubt, but I am pleased and very happy that it is vastly different than what our experience in school was.
yeah. So
Because I think
in summary, we love
we love
interprofessional
talking to
education.
other professions. I love all nurses.
Sticker and DMAC.
I love all nurses. I love PTs. I love OTs. I love all of them so much. And they do the Lord's work because I see what the nurses have to deal with in the hospital, and it makes me feel like I never
And
want
do it.
to be a nurse.
Good and do it. Nope.
All right. So this is a very specific to you question. And it's because
Okay.
our program is in California. I have only been an athletic trainer in California and learned about athletic training in California. What is it like being a certified in a state that is not California?
Um, so starting off with the jump, obviously I had to get licensure. So now I'm an ATC LAT, which is kind of cool. Obviously it's good to have the licensure out here. It was so hard to get. Oh my gosh. It's worth it. I hope California gets it, but it was so much work because they needed to do like they needed my transcripts and they needed the BOC to certify that I was certified. But like to be certified, the BOC had to have my transcripts. Why do you need to have my transcripts? The BOC has my.
Because we don't trust nobody. That's why they needed your transcripts.
So it was a lot of steps. I had to get like letters saying I wasn't a terrible person from like DMAC and Dicker, and then another medical professional. It was just a lot of work, and then it took like a long time, and I'm annoying, so I called them every day. So this is I'm gonna say the timeline it took, and people who like kind of understand it are gonna be like, "That's not that long, Michelle. That didn't take that long." It's because I was the most annoying human that's ever existed because I had football to work, and I was like, "I can't go work this game if I don't get the licensure." Um, it took me from turning in all my paperwork, it only took me like 4 weeks to get like licensure, uh, which is really fast. So that's just like an interesting tidbit. I'm not saying to harass the board of health, like in your respective state if you leave California, but what I am saying is it worked out well for me. Take
A
that as you
little bit
will.
of harassment goes a long way, is what I'm getting.
I did it with a cheery voice and I was never like mean, but I was calling them.
Yeah.
um, and then uh, I'm trying to think of like other differences out here. Um,
I mean, obviously the licensure is the main one. I
it's
think
the main one. It's the
what you
big
do
thing.
as an athletic trainer is very much probably the same unless you have something in your like state that says you can't do this specific type of treatment. Then
Oh, that brings up a good point. Thank you. Giving me ideas. The like I don't know if it's everywhere, obviously, but in
right.
Tennessee, the licensure is kind of like very like vague. And so like I've definitely like had to like call other ATs here whom I've never met, by the way, and I just had to like call them up because I knew their number and be like, "Hi, I'm an AT. Am I allowed to do this? Like, what are the rules here?"
Yeah.
So that's another interesting thing is that like it's so vague that I'm like, "Oh gosh, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to break any rules." But they should have been like, "You cannot do grade 5," because it doesn't say anywhere that I can or can't. And then I don't know if this is related. It might be, it might not be, but I haven't met a single high school athletic trainer whom isn't hired through a third party like company. So I don't know any high school athletic trainer working under the education model. They're all working under the medical model. Like I'm through a PT clinic, and almost all the other athletic trainers like in my district are through PT clinics,
Mhm.
different ones too, which is interesting to me. But and all the other ones I've met in the other areas are through hospitals. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's related. I think it has to be in one way or another, but
So
just a fun, interesting tidbit.
I think there's like a big push for that to be the case. And I think in Northern California, there's a lot. I would say actually most of the high schools get their athletic trainer through a third party. They don't personally hire them except for like the private bougie high schools.
No, there's definitely goods and bads to it. And I'll honestly, I'll just say what it is. Like it's good because I'm getting paid for a third party company who bills for insurance, and so that they can pay you more than like maybe a traditional one. Uh, but the bad thing is that, and I love my job and I love my boss, but a lot of the time they view my job as valuable because I can kick back patients them, which obviously if someone needs to go to P, someone needs surgery or like, something serious, yeah, they need to go to like PT. But I'm not going to refer every single sprained ankle I get to. That's ridiculous. I can handle the
Yeah,
vast majority of my cases by myself.
right.
Um,
If like
so
for
there's
whatever reason you had more cases than you could handle,
yeah,
sure, okay, maybe the more severe ones I might kick over to PT and I can handle the like gonna take 4 weeks and but they're fine.
exactly. And so it's just interesting that my job is viewed as important because I do refer to them a lot of the time. Obviously, patients get their choice at the end of the day, but obviously, I go, "Hey, you want to go to mine? I personally have that guy's number. I could call him up and we could work really well together."
Yeah.
But it's interesting that, like in theory, if I had an entire year's worth where I didn't have to refer, it wouldn't happen. But if I had an entire year's worth of cases that no one needed to be referred to a doctor or referred out to PT, they wouldn't view me as a valuable member of their team anymore. On a money standpoint, they're good people, so they would be like, "No, I still see what she's like helping the community."
But
But
from like an on paper by the books
at
book.
the end of the day, if someone had higher up in the company looked at that and was like, "Oh, this isn't important anymore," there goes my position. They no longer would like want to have that contract with my school.
Right.
So I find that interesting.
You know,
But
every job has its
ups and downs. There's going to be goods and bads.
So, what is your favorite memory of the two of us from grad school?
Oh, that's hard.
There's a lot of really good ones.
Yeah, there's good ones. Um,
Because like we have like the ones that where we were in class and things happen, and then we have the out of class, like random crazy ones that just happen.
I don't know. You go first.
Just oh, I think I think there's a lot of like photos that pop up in like my memories that like spark memories like of just the one where you're like holding hands with my foot.
Yes, I
We're
know that photo exact. I know the
roasting
exact photo.
anybody that doesn't like feet out, but we thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world. And then just like our second year photos where we're like all squished together, like in a bear hug, like smushing faces before, like, you know,
Mm.
like this was pre-corona, so we could touch people
Yeah,
and
switching
not gross
faces was
out.
socially accepted.
No mask, just squishing face, real close together. Like, I think that one, and just like I remember having like a lot of funny just like conversations of just like I don't know, like I don't know, like that was our constant like, well, I'm a student, what are they going to do to me, like I can't, I'm not responsible. Like those kind of ones where we're just like our classic just like let's deflect blame off of myself onto a greater institution or power.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just nice to like be able to, because obviously you spend a lot of hours locked in those two rooms that are the athletic training classrooms, and it's nice to just, I don't know, have a friend there that like while you're, no offense, grad school, but like going through it,
Yeah,
suffering a tiny bit, tired, exhausted,
it's like,
mentally just
yeah,
worn down.
it's like
Like,
that
like
thing where like people that go to war together are like permanently like attacked. Like it's not that severe, but it's pretty damn close. Like
yeah,
it's pretty close. Like you see your friends go through some like rough times, and if it's their week to go through something rough, you know your week is coming relatively soon. Or yours was the week before. So you're like, you were there for me. I'm gonna be there for you through every mental breakdown. I'm gonna be right there. So I do regret that we never had a clinical rotation together,
I know, I know.
but
That's
I think that was
criminal,
intentional.
criminal.
I think the person who was in charge of putting us into clinical rotations made a very conscious decision not to put us together.
Oh, come on, it'd have been fun.
Oh, I think, oh man, that clinic would have burned down. And I think the best part is that we're walking away lifelong friends in a sense that like I got a weird random case or question, I'm gonna tell you about it because either I'm looking for advice or I'm like, this is insane and I think you're gonna like it. So I'm just
Someone just needs to hear this.
which I've already had with you. I've already texted you about the wild things that I see at
Mm.
the hospital. We're just
Yeah,
we're just scratching the surface of what hospitals are like. Like
I'm excited
crazy.
to hear more about it.
You tell me, oh, yeah, there's so much more. And you tell me about the crazy things that high schoolers just say to you, and I'm like, to be young.
I recently had a kid hurt her knee and she was crying. It feels like a period cramp in my knee. Girl, what?
Just the thing that everybody as alumni expects us to say is like, what's your advice for students that are either in their first or second year of the program or about to enter the profession? So
It's even we were talking about like earlier this week, and you were like, "I'm gonna make up questions," and I was like, "Oh, I lost an AirPod," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make up questions too." That was like the first one I thought of. Was like, okay, obviously we have to be like, "What's your advice for the people still in the program?"
for
And the first thing I always think of, I guess, because we probably just recently took our test for our BOC, is that like I'm not saying be okay with failing, but like some of you are going to fail, and that's okay. And a lot of the athletic trainers you look up to and think are like the geniuses and so smart, and like you aspire to be them, they failed. It's fine. You might fail. Don't try to fail. Study. No, like, do your hardest, like your best. But if you do fail, don't get down on yourself. You'll be fine.
yeah.
Just take
And
that stupid test again.
there are also things too that like I didn't pass my first time. And then I got a call from Sarah Bean. Shout out Sarah. And she told me she listed off all the people that did not pass the first time but passed the second time. Andy Paulin, Hall of Famer, did not pass the
That's
first
what I'm
time.
saying.
You are in really good company if you do not pass the first time. I took the test with full intention to pass the first time, but looking back, there were a lot of factors that incorporated into probably the reason why I didn't pass the first time. And I definitely studied really hard, but I did not study how to take the test. And that's the part that I took away from that. And then I studied this for the second time, just how to take the test. Because I knew I already knew all the information. It was just how to take the test and then pass.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't know, something that I think is really important, why like, or at least I think a lot of people don't pass the first time, is like a nerves thing. 'Cause like, oh, this is the test. Like, but like it's just a test. You're not a bad athletic trainer if you don't pass it. And that's why I bring up like, hey, people you admire didn't pass it. So chill out. Don't go into it freaked out. Which brings up like a funny little tidbit about when I took mine is that once again, outing myself. I've been diagnosed with anxiety and I have anxiety meds, but I don't like taking them because they like make me really, really drowsy. Because I guess medicine's just like, hey, you can't be anxious if you're asleep. In the morning of my test, I was freaking out, like freaking out, and on the edge of having a full blown panic attack all morning, like before I left, because I took it in Riverside before I left to drive to Riverside to take it from Temecula. And so I decided to take one of my meds, but it took the longest time to decide if I should take it because I was like, am I going to be so exhausted that I won't be able to focus on my test? Or
Right.
do I go in having almost a panic attack? Like, and I've like puked from panic attacks. So I just like puke on this computer mid test. What do I choose between falling asleep or having a panic attack? I took it and it ended up fine. I passed my first time, but just an interesting tidbit.
No, that's a really good point. It didn't stop me from getting a job. Here's the crazy thing. I got a job the
First,
same
second, third.
time, around the same time everybody else started getting jobs.
You were one of the first ones to get like a real official
Yeah, one of
job.
the first ones. Also, advice: do not freak out about getting a job, because if I could get 3 jobs in the middle of a pandemic, in the time, 3 jobs as an athletic trainer in the middle of a pandemic, you can get one when you
Yeah,
graduate, even if it's still a pandemic, which it probably won't be. And as a regular like athletic trainer in normal situation, you can definitely get one.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
the
I mean,
caveat.
it's nerve wracking, but
Yeah, it's nerve wracking. It will never not be nerve wracking, but deep down, you need to just remind yourself like it will work out. Things do
yeah,
work out. Here's the other thing too. Um, your first job that you get, and I know this is my truth, was not. I knew immediately it was not my forever job.
well,
I
yeah.
I knew I'm like, this is just what I need to do to get experience. And then sure enough, the longer I stayed, I was there for 6 months before I got my CSF job. And actually in that time I took a job at a PT clinic as like a receptionist, and that could do modalities basically, to just, make
Pay the
ends
bills.
meet and pay bills. Exactly. And so, um, I, I, there was a lot of reasons I knew that that wasn't my forever job, or that I wouldn't even be there for more than a year. I
That
knew.
leads into that's a good segue into one of the other few questions that I had brainstormed
Yeah,
was that how long do you think you'll be at your current job? Because the vast majority of people don't stay at their first job. So
yeah. Now
how
that
long do you
I'm
think you'll be there?
in my third job, um, I actually I see being in this job for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put like an exact number on it, but what you need to know when applying for a job, there are things that are red flags from the interviewer that even just tell you as somebody that's interviewing if you should go with this job or not. Some of the red flags are they've had people come and go a lot. Some of the red flags are just yeah, like I said, they've had people come and go, and then that makes you question why. If they're not very forthcoming with information about the job, like if they're not willing to straight up tell you what their day to day looks like, or if you ask them what their favorite part of their job, that it takes them a while to answer that question. Like you kind of, those are some red flags. You're like, okay. Um,
I have a yellow flag for my job because I like my job a lot, but something I didn't this makes me seem dumb. Don't judge me, guys. But something like I hadn't really like fully thought about is so like it's the first time that my PT clinic I worked through had the contract with the high school I'm at, and I knew that, but I kind of didn't fully internalize that meant I'm going to be starting everything from scratch. I kind of figured there'd be something there because they had an AT before, but like no, fully writing the policies and procedures. They don't just fully doing everything. So it's kind of like a yellow flag if it's like
yeah.
the very first time this position has ever existed. And I remember like kind of talking to my boss and him being like, I don't know, because they never hired an AT before
Yeah.
through this PT clinic. So me and him have very much learned together
Yeah.
my scope of practice.
Yeah, that was me at my first job. What gave me warm fuzzies about my current job and what made me feel like I was making for sure the right decision about going to UCSF was my boss has been at UCSF for 10 years.
Yeah, that's nice.
and has not left. He's worked his way up, and now he manages all the athletic trainers that are there in the O&P department. And the great thing about UCSF, because it is a research hospital and it's a big community cornerstone in the Bay Area, they wanted me to develop a passion project. They're like, we have so many committees that you could join, including a community outreach where we're working with kids who have prostheses and they have never seen another kid with prostheses, but we have them come to basketball camp. We teach them how to surf. We do these things. Like, you could do that. Or you could be on the research committee and conduct research with us about prosthetics. And you could run, maybe it's like proving that there needs to be further rehab with people that have prostheses. And so you're going to be making the rehab plans for that research project. They have, and that's just 2 of like the 15, what it feels like, committees that we have. And you can be on multiple committees. And the great thing about it is I didn't see a ceiling. I didn't see where I'm like, this is as far as I can go, and then this will be my point where I have to leave.
Yeah.
Whereas I was at my other job for 6 months, and in that 6 months I met the ceiling. There was nowhere else to go. I'm like, we're here in 6 months, fresh out of grad school, 6 months, and we are here. So, but the reason why I got this job is because I was in that job for 6 months. So it wasn't a waste of time. It was longer that I'm here at UCSF. And the more connections that I make with my coworkers and the more patients I see, my love for it just grows more and more every day.
I feel like that's also a good segue for the only other question I brainstormed, which was specific to you, which is there something you miss about the traditional field, or is there something you're glad you don't have to deal with about the traditional field since you don't work in it?
Yeah. What I miss about the traditional field is just the sports, like game day kind of feeling, like when you put on the black pants with the black polo, you have your sunglasses on, and you feel like, ooh, I look good. It's game day. I'm going to feel good kind of a thing. That's the feeling that I miss. And of course, like working with a sports team, just that kind of sports camaraderie. But I miss that, like, in not as much as I thought, because I work with so many other athletic trainers. We build that camaraderie, team energy into what we do. So it's not like I'm missing it in a sense of like, oh, I can't get it at all, because a lot of my coworkers do per diem stuff on the weekends. They're like, yeah, I was missing football, so I worked a football game to get my yayas out, and now I'm good. Like, it's that kind of a thing. And like, I know people that work at high schools in the Bay Area here that always need people to cover like water polo tournaments or like whatever. And so I always know that I can get that little taste of like what it was like and be like, oh, that was nice. And then go back to like my 8 to 5 and be fine. The thing that I like that was not, I didn't really think about until I was at the hospital was when you will hear a code blue over the speaker system, and that means someone is going into cardiac arrest. And there are a million other people more qualified than me to deal with that situation. And I'm like, huh. Because we were walking in the hospital when I was getting trained, and we heard code blue over the speaker, and we're like, and Annie goes, yep, and just keeps walking. Like, it's not your problem. Now, I know I am fully qualified and able to deal with that situation. But the hospital has tools for that as an athletic trainer on the sideline, you do not have. And there are people specifically hired at hospitals to do that. Like, that is all they do. And so that's actually kind of like an unintended like upside about that, is that I don't see that emergency kind of side to things. Like, I don't have to do that now. And also vomit. I don't have to deal with it, which is great because I
knock
can't.
on wood, one of your patients is going to puke for no reason tomorrow.
Oh, let me tell you, we went in to go deliver a brace, and we usually give an option if they feel comfortable, and especially if we have to get them out of bed to do it. We're like, do you want to do this now, or do you want to wait till PT comes? Like, is kind of like our, if we're there by ourselves, like that's like our initial thing. Cause you don't know when you get there when you get there to deliver the brace. You don't know if they've had their meds recently. You don't know whatever. So like they could be in a lot of pain and they're just like, I don't want to, or they're passed out, like they're sleeping. And I'm like, they just had surgery. They need to sleep. I'm just going to drop this off and I'll come back later is kind of the idea about this. And so there was this patient and we walk in and it was going to be a back brace. Like we would need to get her out of bed. And she's like, I am in so much pain. I was sleeping, so I missed the time to get my new dose of medication. Like I am in so much pain. So as we were in there, her nurse came in to give her medication. And I don't know if you know anything about morphine, but it makes people really nauseous. And so literally immediately upon getting the needle into her IV, she's like, I'm gonna throw up. And I'm like, and this is where I exit. I literally just walked out of the room because we had delivered the brace. We had done our job. I wrote in my note, deliver brace. We'll be back later to fit. And then that was it. Like there are so many things now that I don't have to deal with in like the gross bodily fluid world, which is great. Like, do I miss traditional athletic training? Like I see our classmates going on road trips with teams. I'm like, oh, those are fun. I'm like, oh, road trips are fun.
And then you remember the logistics of like sleeping in a bus and being away from home for the weekend and having to hang out with like 60 kids for a full weekend.
And then you're doing treatments out of a hotel room and like, kind of
like working in the heat for like 8 hours straight.
Right. And I think what we're all guilty of as just like humans is romanticizing what we don't have.
Oh, 1,000%.
And so I think I have to remind myself what it's actually like. And so, and I definitely romanticized being at a hospital before I got there. Like when I was applying for the job, I'm like, I really want this job. And I romanticized what it would be like. I'm like, it's going to be like Grey's Anatomy. It's not like Grey's Anatomy. I know a little bit, but like it's not like that's a drama. That's a dramatization of what the hospital world is like. Like same with Scrubs. Like it's a dramatization of like what hospitals are like. It's a parody on a hospital. And so you come in with these ideas, and I'm like, oh, it's not like that. But that's not a bad thing. It's just it's not like that. And so
you're so right about the romanticizing thing, because I even do that at the high school, because like my original life plan was college, like you know that, and I still think I want to be at a college, and so I do that. I'm totally romanticizing like college jobs, even though I don't think I'm going to leave for at least a handful of years from my current job. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I got a college job, this and this, but I don't remember like the excessive hours at a college and the like almost every weekend you have to be there, and I completely agree. Even though it's not like that different of a field, I still am like. And I don't remind myself of like the reality, you know?
Well, yeah. And there's like, I also catch myself like romanticizing like grad school sometimes. I was like, oh, that was fun just having all my friends like in one place at one time, which it really was. But then I forget like you didn't have a lot of sleep.
I have a paycheck now. There's nothing has ever been having a paycheck.
Right.
They pay me twice a month for some reason. They just keep giving me money.
Yeah, with a state job, I just get one big check at the start of the month, and then I got to be responsible. And I'm like, oh, it's funny. My coworker told me, she's like, you're gonna think you're rich. She's like, because you're used to getting like.
I've never made this much money in my entire life.
Yeah, she's like, she's like, you're gonna think you're rich. She's like, you're gonna get your first paycheck at the beginning of the month, and it's gonna be huge. But then you forget that like, that's your paycheck for the entire month. You're not getting another one in 2 weeks. So she's like, because normally, like, you know, your first check in the month is to pay for your rent and bills, and that's what it goes to. And then your second check is like fun money. Like that can go wherever. And she's like, nope, not when you get one fat ass check. You're just like, not when you get one check at the start of the month. You got to be smart. And so that's the part that I've had to get used to.
Looking for an apartment out here, I literally was like, how much of your paycheck should your apartment cost you? Google, hit enter, send. Someone tell me, because I don't know.
I had to Google how much taxes is taken out of my paycheck in the state of California. Like I had to because I put in my salary, and I was like, okay, in this generator, I'm gonna put in my salary and see. And then I'm like, okay. And then I didn't take into account like what benefits get taken out of your paycheck. And I was like, oh shit, okay, yeah, all right. So
that makes sense. Those don't just come out of nowhere.
To think about too, because I remember our professors telling us to make sure you get a job that you can feed yourself with. Like I remember that. And then you
But
also
the
need to
logistics of
remember,
figuring out if you can feed yourself is
yeah,
hard.
like you need to do the math. And I don't know if this is all athletic trainers, but it's definitely you and me. Math is not our thing. So
Yeah, math don't vibe.
math don't vibe.
Mm-mm.
So you got to figure it out. Like you need to figure it out. Like I fully advocate for finding a job where you can feed yourself. And for me, that was finding
Don't
two
starve to death.
jobs. Yeah, for
Find
me,
Michelle and Becca.
yeah, yeah. That was for me finding two jobs.
Yeah, we should charge for that hot tip.
Yeah, like 20 Venmo me $25 for that. My Venmo is crazy things. Well, maybe we should end this so that Sarah doesn't have 18 hours of footage.
She's gonna kill us. I'm so sorry, Sarah.
Sorry, Sarah Bean. I'm so sorry. Pick and choose what you want out of here. If not, this has been our TED Talk.
All right. Love you, Becca.
Love you too. I'm sure I'll text you later.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Awkward Zoom wave. Bye.